You can sense the anxiety emanating from the establishment and mainstream parties. Whether it's the news about local elections being cancelled or Labour MPs cautiously broaching the topic of reform, you can feel their unease. In today's video, we'll take a look at Andy Burnham making some questionable remarks during a live BBC broadcast, only to be called out for his nonsense, and rightly so. But before we dive in, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and join our ever-growing community. Take a look at this.
Sometimes asylum seekers arriving to live in their communities where there isn't the right infrastructure, there isn't right support. In your patch in Altrincham in Cheshire, there's suddenly a new asylum hotel with 300 people arriving. Do you think there's a political risk for your party on this issue?
Well, always, but I have great confidence in Yvette Cooper. She is one of the most experienced and knowledgeable ministers that there is. She's one of the best politicians of our era, and what she laid out in the interview is exactly what she would be doing. She talked about the agreements that have to be put in place with other countries. That's the hard work. I did it in the Blair government. You have to be on the phone to ministers in other governments
so you
talking.
were actually immigration minister at that point, weren't you?
I was, and this is the thing, and let me get to reform, because Susanna rightly raised it. Going forward from here in 2025, they need to be held to account for the consequences of their own policies.
Reform should.
The big lie of Brexit, in my view, needs to be exposed because they promised us that it would control immigration. It's done the opposite. It's weakened control of immigration because it's weakened those relationships with our neighbours that are absolutely critical to having an orderly system. But at the same time, it's changed the nature of migration. So they've been issuing more and more visas for people coming from further afield, staying permanently, whereas with free movement, it would have been somebody would come for a few years and then go back. So absolutely, I have confidence in what Yvette is doing. It's going to be hard. It was just interesting, if I could just say, listening to the Shadow Home Secretary about the Rwanda scheme. If they were so confident in it, I think they would have delayed the general election, wouldn't they, to when the first planes took off. But it's noticeable that they didn't do that because they know it was a colossal failure and waste of money. And they, like with everything else, they weren't prepared to kind of own any of their issues. They cut and run, and just to hear all of that just now was just
really wound you up, hasn't it?
It has, because they're just not. There's no humility there in saying yes, we failed. We need to learn the lessons. I didn't hear that from the Shadow Home Secretary.
Following this, Richard Tice called Burnham out, saying, "Burnham isn't stupid, so he's being deliberately misleading. The Tories, not Reform UK, were in government. They chose to open the borders. As a sovereign nation, they could control visa numbers, something that wasn't possible with freedom of movement." The public also reacted strongly. One user commented, "He's just parroting the new Labour script to vilify Reform UK." Another Dave remarked, "Mark my words, this is all intentional." Bob said, "What are your thoughts on this? Let me know in the comments." The news that 20,000 illegal migrants have arrived in the UK since Labour took power is, sadly, no surprise. The government appears to lack any real strategy to tackle the issue. Instead, it continues to provide unauthorised arrivals with an attractive package. Free hotel accommodation, travel passes, cash allowances, and, crucially, the near guarantee of permanent settlement in Britain, complete with full access to our social services and welfare system. All this is available to individuals who have never contributed a penny to the system they are now benefiting from. The financial burden of asylum migration is becoming increasingly clear. Research from countries like Sweden, Denmark, and the Netherlands highlights the scale of the problem. A landmark study last year by economists at the University of Amsterdam, Borderless Welfare State, Van der Beek et al., revealed that the lifetime net cost of certain categories of asylum migration can exceed €620,000 per person. If the UK's situation mirrors this, the 20,000 recent illegal arrivals could burden society with billions in future costs. A daunting prospect for a nation already wrestling with ballooning public deficits and a growing national debt. The politicians in power, both Labour and the Conservatives, are displaying reckless disregard for their responsibilities to protect social cohesion and national unity. Time and again, both parties have shown they are not serious about reducing immigration or securing Britain's borders. The figures speak for themselves. Net migration surged to a staggering 906,000 by June 2023. Instead of enacting meaningful reforms, they rely on hollow gestures such as the Rwanda scheme or empty slogans like "smash the gangs." These gimmicks fail to address the real fears of communities and do little to restore confidence in the government's ability to manage the situation. But these gimmicks do little to address the genuine concerns of local communities. Many watch as unvetted young men, often from conflict-ridden regions, arrive unannounced and are housed in hostels or hotels in their towns. These communities feel powerless, overlooked, and disrespected. The reality is that the British ruling class was never truly prepared to seize the opportunities presented by Brexit. Following the 2016 referendum, they could have taken decisive action to secure our borders and protect the public by moving beyond outdated post-war refugee conventions and withdrawing from the European Convention on Human Rights, ECHR. Offshore processing centres in British territories like Ascension Island, similar to Australia's highly effective model, could have been introduced. Such measures would have stemmed the flow of illegal migration almost overnight. Yet, the government lacks the political will and courage to make these decisions. The public will undoubtedly deliver their verdict at the next election. Until then, the tide of illegal migration will continue to rise, and with it, the social and economic costs will spiral. The impact on our society is set to be profound. On a different note, Meghan Markle and Prince Harry have faced backlash over their latest Christmas card, which notably excludes the word Christmas. Instead, it reads, "We wish you a very happy holiday season and a joyful new year." The card is accompanied by photos from the couple's royal tours in Nigeria, Colombia, and Prince Harry's solo trip to Lesotho, with a standout image of their children, Archie, 5, and Lilibet. The omission of Christmas sparked criticism among royal fans, with some calling it offensive to Christians and very American. One critic remarked, "Why bother sending a card if it's not a Christmas card?" Others compared it to a promotional brochure, with one calling it virtue signalling. What are your thoughts on today's discussion? Let me know in the comments below. And if you haven't already, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more British political content. Thank you, take care, and goodbye.